Hello everyone, we are live from Afro Swag Media and Magazine. Today I have Blaise here. Blaise is a tax expert. I'll let him tell us who he is and then we'll take it from here.
Okay, hello.
Wait.
Thanks for having me, Deborah.
Oh, you're welcome.
My name is Blaise. I think this is the second time I'm here. So some people may have seen me before, and I actually own a tax preparation practice that I started about 10 years ago.
Okay.
I also do other things on the side because the tax preparation business, as you know, is a seasonal activity. So I get to talk to a lot of people about their taxes and give some advice, prepare their taxes, and things of that nature.
Okay. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank
you. This is tax season, and we know in the African diaspora community, taxes can be a source of conflict within couples and families. As an expert, what would be some of the advice that you can give us regarding how couples can file their taxes? What are some of the ways that they can file their taxes?
Well, to start with, there is one thing a lot of Africans don't do. A lot of African couples don't do. It's what is called the tax planning. You have to sit down and find out what you want to do about your taxes at the end of the year. You want to sit down and find out if you want to file separate, you want to file it together, how much you want to have deducted from your paycheck. Do you want to owe at the end? Do you want to get money back? Do you want to break even? And so there is some planning work that they need to do.
Okay.
Because if they don't plan, there's going to be differences and conflicts at the end of the year. Then, when you're married, there is only two ways you can file your taxes. You either file as a couple, filing together, jointly, or being married but filing separate. Now, if you have children, your best interest is to go filing jointly. Because if you file separate, even though you're married, you lose a lot of credit that you get for having children. So you get less money if you don't file together. Now, some people still do it because they cannot get along. As you know, there are difficulties communicating and doing things together. So I would say just planning and talking to somebody who knows how things work is the best way to go.
Okay. I've seen and I've heard people say that, okay, let the husband file with 2 kids and the wife with 1 child. What do you think about that approach?
Well, legally, you can get into some trouble. If you are married and you file as a single or as a head of household, those status should not be used by married people.
Okay.
Still, some couples do that. They file separate. As a single or head of household with a child or two children, they display the children and they file separately, not using the legal filing status, which is married but filing. If you're not legally married and you're doing it, that's okay, because the government cannot bring anything against you for filing those status, and you get more money. But if you're legally married and you're filing separate, there's going to be a time, either because you're doing some immigration papers or you're filing for financial aid or things of that nature, and they will ask you for your tax return papers. And you bring the tax return, and they will tell you to go back all those years and redo your taxes. And then you'll be in a lot of debt with the IRS, which is not a fun thing.
So to our viewers, if you need some tax advice, reach out to Blaise. How can we get in touch with you?
Is it the point where I'll bring out my business card? Well, they can contact you, or I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
They can look me up.
And what's the best phone number?
The best phone number is 402-321-0665.
Okay. So talking about businesses.
Right.
As a business owner, sometimes you have not so reliable clients. And all year long, they don't pay. And then at the end of the year, I've heard people say, okay, just send them a 1099. What does that mean?
First, let's start with the 1099. What's a 1099? A 1099 is the self-employed version of a W-2.
Okay.
So let's say you work for somebody. At the end of the year, you get a W-2 that shows how much you made and how much tax was deducted and all those things. Now, if you are not an employee, you get a 1099 instead of a W-2. That means you are working as a self-employed, as a contractor, so you get a 1099. That's why I say it's the contractor's version of the W-2.
Okay.
Technically, people who get a 1099 are people who actually got money from you.
Okay.
So you cannot use that when people owe you money. Because if you give them a 1099, you're actually canceling out your debt. Because they owe you money, but you're saying that you paid them the money by giving them a 1099.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm trying to get? So yeah, it's not appropriate. People do say a lot of things that they don't actually know about. So you need to talk to somebody who's in the profession before you do those things. As much as possible. You can even call the IRS or talk to a tax attorney or tax consultant.
So talk to you.
I'm always available to answer questions.
Okay.
There is no fee for that.
So that's very interesting. I see your point. This is my understanding. It's that before even sending them that 1099, you send them a letter and telling them that, the money that they owe you, they shouldn't pay it anymore. There is no point paying that anymore, that you're going to send them a 1099. It's like they earn that money from you. And at that time, you can file it as your expenses.
I see.
And I believe that will benefit your business. Okay. And in return, that's an earning that they have, and when they file their taxes, they have to report it.
Okay. Yeah, I understand the strategy, but I don't think it's the best practice.
Okay.
From an accounting point of view, what you're doing is, I want to deduct this money that they didn't pay me out of my taxes, out of my earnings before I get taxed. That's why you're saying I paid them this amount, right? And then on their taxes, they have to say that they received this amount from you. The only thing I see is you are getting some tax advantage, and they are losing some tax advantage, but you're not making money, really.
Right.
The IRS is making money off of both of you. He's going to pay taxes on what you said you pay them. But what about the cash that they owe you? What about that income that you missed, the debt? They keep the money. They get to keep the money. What I think is you can actually take out of your earnings bad debt. From an accounting point of view, in your accounting, you can take bad debt out of your income, which brings your earnings down and you pay less tax. But they still owe you, technically.
Okay,
And
I
then
see.
one day they can still pay you. In 10 years, 100 years, whatever, they owe you that money plus interest. But a 1099 would just kill the whole thing. And they get to pay a little bit of money to the IRS, but that's it.
Okay.
So I would not use that.
Okay. I get your point. That's very interesting. So if you are an entrepreneur out there or a business owner out there and you are in this type of situation, I highly recommend you approach Blaise, and he will analyze the situation. He will do some type of assessment and then give you the best advice or the best approach.
Yes.
Still talking about businesses.
Okay.
So I have clients that come to me and they want that authorization. I think it's called Form 20 to be able to collect taxes. Now, in the state of Nebraska, do all businesses need to file that form?
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned Nebraska because a lot of people think the Form 20 is an IRS form. It's a Nebraska form. It has to do with state taxes, not with federal taxes. And the IRS is only dealing with federal taxes. So this Form 20 has to do with the Nebraska Department of Revenue. That's how they call it. Nebraska Department of Revenue. Now, do all businesses have to file it? No. Why? The state of Nebraska does not identify you as a business until you create what we call the tax ID, a Nebraska tax ID, which is not the same thing as the federal EIN.
Okay.
It's the Nebraska version of the EIN. So if you don't apply for a Nebraska tax ID, they don't know you. So you don't have to file the Form 20.
Okay.
Now, if you apply for it and you get a Nebraska tax ID, yes, you have to file it.
Okay. So what are the businesses, if they apply for the Nebraska tax ID and everything, they're compliant with everything, do all businesses, meaning service providers like hairdressers, food caterers, are they required in Nebraska to collect taxes?
Officially, they are.
Okay.
Because if you provide a service, you have to charge the 7% tax that people pay, right, on service. But some people don't apply for a Nebraska tax ID, so they don't collect the taxes. So it's a little bit as if they're giving people 7% on the price that they're supposed to pay in the name of the state of Nebraska, which is illegal, kind of. So yes, if you want to do your business and have peace, be at peace with Nebraska, you should get your Nebraska ID and charge people the 7%.
Okay.
What is the 7% doing to you? Nothing. So because you collect it and you give it back to the government is actually using you as a point of contact with people to get their 7%. That's all. You're just a proxy for them, basically.
So again, if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur in Nebraska, and this situation is not clear for you, I advise you to approach Blaise. He's available. And again, I know he gave some approaches, but again, this is a case by case.
Yes, definitely.
And he needs to look into the situation, look at the type of services or product that you provide, and then he will give you the best advice as a tax expert.
Thank you.
So February is a Black History Month.
Yes, it is.
As an African and African American, what do you think about celebrating the Black History Month?
I'm glad. I'm very glad that we have a time of the year that the whole nation decided to think or remember the history of Black people. But as a Black man, as an African American, I consider this is not enough. Because a month is not enough for us to remember. A month is not enough for us to find out about ourselves. We have thousands of years of history. We, as a Black people, we should celebrate our Black history every day and everywhere. So there is work to do, a lot of work. But I'm glad for what we have. We're pushing for more. A lot of people are talking about changing the story. A lot of people are putting things in perspective. With social media, we have a lot more facts coming out about Black history and all those things. So I'm hopeful for the future, but we're not there yet.
Okay. So what is the trend that you have seen so far with people filing their taxes in 2020?
What's the trend?
Are people waiting for the last minute compared to the previous year?
No, actually, I think most people this year started early.
Okay.
And I think they were a lot aware of the fact that, when you're claiming some credits like the EIC, the Child Tax Credit, or the American Opportunity Act credit, the IRS said, yeah, we're going to take more time to look into this, investigate more because of all the fraud, they have had to go through. And so I think people are aware of that, so they filed early.
Okay.
But they filed early, but they're still impatient, to get their money. So they will give you a call sometimes to find out, hey, what's going on,
I would like to give a shout out to Desiree Ingeson. If you're watching, thank you for your sponsorship. She is the one actually with the jewelry. It's called Paparazzi. She does a paparazzi business, and I'm wearing some of her product tonight. Thank you, Desiree.
I need the men version.
Yeah, you should contact her if you need jewelry. I mean,
yes.
We just celebrated. It's not just Valentine's Day that you should purchase gifts, but we have a lot of holidays coming, and if you need any type of jewelry, Desiree Ingeson is available. I'll put her information in the comment box.
Sounds very good.
comment.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for having me and giving me an opportunity to answer some questions that people might have been asking themselves. Thanks for the great work you're doing. See, you work hard, you push, and I wanted to congratulate you on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, viewers, for being with us tonight. Thank you for watching. This was Afro Swag Media and Magazine. And don't forget our official launch. It's on April 26, 2020 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Go to Eventbrite, go to our Facebook page, our social media pages in general, and you'll be able to reserve your spot by purchasing the ticket. It's only $15. Thanks for watching once again. Bye-bye.
Bye.